Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transform Now. I'm Brad Hairston.
And I'm Michael Marchuk.
And this is the weekly pulse check. We're looking at the news. We're picking out those big headlines related to automation and AI, and we're breaking them down for you. So, Michael, let's dive right in. First article is from CNBC. It's titled, Accenture Plans on Exiting Staff Who Can't Be Reskilled on AI Amid Restructuring Strategy. So according to CEO Julie Sweet, Accenture is, like every other company on the planet, investing in upskilling their people. It's absolutely their primary strategy. They say they've reskilled 550,000 of their employees to date. But she also explained that the company is exiting on a compression timeline people for whom reskilling isn't a viable path. So give us your take on this, Michael.
This is I don't know how they're trying this, but that what you just said that they're exiting them because AI upskilling is not a viable path. So to me, that means that the people are either unwilling or unable. So if they are unwilling to go down the AI path, okay, I can understand that. This is our company business. This is our company strategy. And this is where we have to go.
Yeah.
If they are unable to, that leads me to wonder, why would they be unable to do so? And what came to mind first off is and this is my first thought, is that are these folks some of their more tenured people? Mm-hmm. So folks who had been in Accenture, maybe they were in Arthur Andersen before that. Are they in a spot where they're I don't say targeting, but they're, I guess I'd call targeting folks who are older. And that kind of bothered me, honestly, when I first read this. That was the first thing that I thought about, and it really bothered me.
Yeah.
I understand where their company's going. And like I said, I mean, they've already reskilled or upskilled 550,000 employees. That is no small feat. So they are certainly moving ahead with doing what they want to do. And according to they said they're expecting to save over $1 billion from some of this optimization that they're doing as part of this. So this is pretty significant. And they've also hired up 77,000 AI people for AI and data people, which is great. They're continuing to hire people, but this whole exiting piece based on their ability to transition to AI. There's two parts to that. One is, I think, is it ageism that we're seeing as an undercurrent of this. Yeah. The other part of it is AI is a tool, and the experience that these people have in working in business is something else. So if you have someone who's been in Accenture working in their business units for decades. And again, I'm hypothesizing all this. Maybe they're getting rid of all of their entry-level people because they couldn't get trained up in AI, but I think that's highly unlikely. So let's assume that these are experienced people that they're transitioning out. They have a whole bunch of business knowledge that they're taking with them as part of this. So what's that going to do to the impact of Accenture as they move to the next phase? It's one thing to say, hey, we've upskilled people internally, wherever we're exiting, but we're losing a whole bunch of folks who are seasoned professionals. So I think that could be an issue. One thing I didn't see is what that number is. Yeah, how many people are being exited on that? Like, is this just like, hey, we've got 14 people who are in their 80s who just can still be working here for some reason, and they're being exited because they can't learn AI. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was that's my take on this, on who can't be reskilled on AI, because I mean, as you and I both know, AI has various levels. There's the can I open up ChatGPT and ask it a question? Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm using AI to an extent. Now, can I take the data and run it through some transformers to put it into a vector database and support that on my own? I can't do that. That's not a skill that I have, but I don't think that's what they're trying to do with these folks who are being reskilled on AI. So that's my thoughts.
My reaction was very similar. I was really surprised that they would say publicly that there are people in our company that just can't be upskilled. You don't hear a lot of companies saying that. You have a lot more companies saying, look, we're downsizing. AI is changing the mix of skills that we need. And so we're going to be right sizing and right skilling our organization. And if that's what they're doing, I don't know why they don't just say that. I mean, that's not going to seem unusual. I learned how to program in COBOL 2 at Accenture, Anderson Consulting at the time. This is back in the late 80s. And there may be people like that who still, maintain some of those older, like mainframe-based applications that big, large Fortune 500 companies are using. And maybe those are the people that they're like, hey, you're a great COBOL programmer, but everything's AI now, so we're going to push you guys out. I don't know. It raises a lot of questions, but I really, when I read this, I kept thinking in my head, how do they determine if someone is not viable from reskilling? Because I think even older people at Accenture are going to have the ability to, adapt new skills and kind of advance their career and do different things. I mean, that's kind of what being at a company like Accenture is all about. I mean, that's part of their DNA, reskilling all the time. So anyway, interesting article there. Our next one is from ZDNet, and it's titled, Google's new open protocol secures AI agent transactions, and 60 companies already support it. So Google has rolled out essentially the next level of AI assistance in the e-commerce world. And this is agent-led AI transactions, where you have an agent that can place orders on your behalf. They can save you the time of researching products, and they can even connect you to a merchant that they think is tailor-made for what you're looking to buy. What do you think about this, Michael?
So the first thing that comes to mind is when we were this was last year, we were in Toronto, and we had talked about some of the things that were coming up, and this was in 2024. Things that where we expected to see in 2024 that, these are potential things to maybe start considering. And one of these things was the fact that your customers or customers of your organization may no longer be people, but they may be agents. And so having these systems connecting on your behalf to transact business first shows a lot of trust, because it's not like you're just saying, well, I think this would be a good recommendation for you. Like, we were all used to AI recommendations, but to have it go ahead and make a transaction on your behalf, that requires a lot of trust in what you're doing. Additionally, it requires a lot of coordination with, well, what is the payment mechanism that we're going to entrust with my agent in terms of its capabilities to go out and do this purchase on my behalf? Do I just give it my credit card number? Is that enough?
Right.
Is that what we want to do? Or do we want to have something that's a little more secure, maybe more transactional based, that's designed for agents? And so Google's platform really does that. It goes down that path. That's why they're having so many of these organizations connect with us, saying, this is a necessary component that's part of this new agent world that we live in. So as part of that, how do we manage that in a way that is secure and is capable as we build agents that are going to do more and more for us? So I think this is a great idea. I'm glad to see that they're moving forward and seeing this is a piece that's falling into place.
Yeah. I mean, if an agent's going to make purchases, it's going to have access to your payment details, right? So
Exactly.
that in and of itself kind of, raises the stakes. In fact, there was a recent survey from SailPoint, which is one of our TAP partners at SS&C Blue Prism. That survey revealed that 96% of IT professionals think that if you're not governing agents carefully, that there will be security risk, and certainly anything involving payments or financial transactions is front and center in that. And yet they say their organizations are going forward, as fast as they can, regardless. So
Right.
there is a level of concern about this space, and yet, as the article said, there's 60 organizations that are full steam ahead with this new agent, which is called the Agent Payments Protocol, AP2. That's what Google has rolled out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's organizations like American Express and Coinbase and MasterCard and PayPal. I mean, these are the bread and butter platforms that all of us use to make our payments. So they're buying into it, and we'll see if we all can get to that point here before too long.
Yep. Yeah, I expect, especially with Coinbase, you talk about micro payments as we start working forward, and understanding that not everything may be rounded up to the nearest penny for a specific transaction. So allowing micro payments to happen, which are less than a cent, using like that Bitcoin or some other stable coin going forward, I think it's a really great idea, because these transactions then could happen, and while they're happening, they're not actually, it's nothing that would come up on a credit card from a perspective, because you wouldn't charge a penny to something, but being able to transact in these micropayments is a really great idea. So.
Yep, agreed. Okay, the next article is from MSN. It's titled OpenAI Foresees Millions of AI Agents Somewhere in the Cloud in Just a Few Years with Human Supervision. So OpenAI recently launched GPT-5 Codex, Codex, one of their more recent algorithms, and it can run for hours at a time on complex software projects, such as massive code refactorings and that type of thing. So this is in the code generation area. And as this rolled out, OpenAI leaders kind of pivoted off of this, and they said, they can envision a world where there's millions of agents using algorithms like Codex to crank out code nonstop. And so they've kind of gone to the extreme to say, no, it's not hundreds or thousands, it's millions of agents. But they were quick to say that human supervision is still part of the mix. So Michael, why don't you break this down a little further for us?
So I think this is, I'm smiling because as I look at this, I say, so going back towards, in my experience, I'm sure you've had a similar experience, when you had the first set of cloud applications coming out and cloud components. So you have I want to start a VM, and another IT group starts out a VM, and they want to run a cloud instance of something. When you have millions of anything, it becomes sprawl if you don't control it quickly. So I understand what you're saying, this whole million, there may be millions, and hopefully that means we have a controlled number for each entity that is actually using this. Because if you look at the hundreds of millions of users that ChatGPT has and OpenAI has within ChatGPT, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's this is Brad's agent, and it's being supervised, and it's using that Google platform now to make payments as Brad is doing whatever he's doing, and all that's great. The somewhere in the cloud part of it, that just got me laughing. Like, we hope we know where it is. It's somewhere in the cloud. Yeah. The concept that he was talking about here in terms of coding, I expect this is one angle or one use case that that this might be applied to. And allowing those millions of coding agents to do their thing is akin to having millions of programmers doing their thing. You still have to have, ask them what to do. You need to have to supervise the output on that and validate it. So he's not wrong. There's going to be a lot of human oversight, as we've seen with all the vibe coding things that have gone wrong. The idea is that it can produce some really interesting stuff, but it does require people to determine if it's useful and it's working the way we expect it to. But yeah, that's the first thing that I was laughing. Just yes, millions and millions somewhere.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, as the number of agents grows and grows exponentially, it means you need more, skilled software engineers to govern and manage, and make sure the interactions between these agents are working the way they're intended. And there's going to be lots of things that, go awry that need to be addressed. So, it's not the end of software engineering or the coder role, and OpenAI is, again, quick to point that out, but they are certainly feeling more and more bullish about the path to this world where we have millions of agents, although most companies are still trying to get that first one off the ground. So maybe not. The reality of it is the pace is not matching their expectation, but at some point it will change.
Exactly.
All right, next article. This is from Tech Policy, and it's titled With AI Agents, Memory Raises Policy and Privacy Questions. This is a really interesting piece. It's laser focused on the memory aspect of agents. As we all know, agents are designed to act autonomously on our behalf, and they remember details from past interactions so they can improve their performance. However, the more an agent remembers, this raises questions about privacy, about accuracy, about how the memory aligns with our preferences, because our preferences change over time, as we know. And of course, there's all possible, areas of misuse of the memory. So what's your take on this, Michael, and what this author had to say about this?
So the basics behind it. So we've all had the idea that, we go back to our chats and it remembers the things we've talked about in the past and can help build on top of that. And people on LinkedIn, I've seen, well, tell me more about myself and what do you think I look like? And all just based on the interactions that we've had. This is slightly a different take on it, which is, for example, if you are in your organization and you have entrusted your AI agent to help manage your schedule, understand what you're working on, help you write things, help you compose new emails back and forth to people, responses and whatnot. The memories that are associated with that in terms of your preferences and how you answer somebody, a particular somebody. Perhaps I'm very informal with you, but I'd be very formal with someone else in terms of my responses and emails. Those are all contained within that memory, that configuration of my agent. Now, if something were to change where I'm one of those people at Accenture where that needs to be exited because of my age or my lack of using AI, even though I'm using AI, I no longer am part of the organization now. What happens to all of that data, the memory that is embedded into the AI agent that I'm leaving behind? And when I start my new role in a new organization, do I have to start retraining another AI agent all over again? Or is it possible for me to take those memories with me so that I can retrain or start from the same point with a new agent at my new organization? Or are the memories so tied to that organization because it's like taking an employee with you as you go, that they'll have information that's stuck in their memory that may be confidential information that shouldn't be outside of the organization. So it becomes very difficult then to understand, well, how does this fit when you're making these transitions? Or if someone else has access to your agent somehow, what that might imply. So this is a very difficult situation to make its way through, because this whole concept of memory and portability and that kind of stuff is still very, very nascent. I mean, I don't think anyone's figured this out yet.
Yeah. Yeah. The author certainly feels like governance and control and portability of the memories is going to be necessary. And there's a term for what he envisions happening. It's called vendor lock-in. That's where you've been using a particular AI platform or LLM to capture all of your memories, and you've done a lot of your interactions with that particular model. And then you decide to change, as you said, you want to take those memories with you. Well, the vendor may make it impossible for you to do that. And so he raises the importance of probably regulations making this mandatory. What do you think about that? The regulatory aspect of this?
That's a tough thing. I understand where you'd want to do that, but now you open up a whole other can of worms with how do you do what's a portable memory?
Right.
If my platform, let's just say I'm using Anthropic Claude right now, and then I transition over and now my agent's on OpenAI's ChatGPT or OpenAI's platform, how do I make those memories move across? I mean, there's no standard for it. So regulating a standard could cause issues, because companies now would have to engineer the capabilities to export into some standardized view. Yeah. The other part of it too that I didn't bring up, but it really wasn't covered in here so much. It was briefly brought about in terms of who can access these memories. What happens when your organization is involved in some legal dispute? Could they subpoena the memories of the AI agents to be able to provide more information? Because they already can get to emails and dialogues and whatnot. But could they take in that same kind of thing and now subpoena the memories of these agents to be able to get additional information, which may, in fact, just like when you expose emails, may necessarily give some other information out that can't be easily just extracted.
Right.
So it's a tough thing to understand how these memory pieces could be used or would be used.
Yeah.
Just because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. The author, I think at the very end of the article, makes his opinion known that he thinks policymakers are going to have to set standards for portability and for that to happen. He feels like tech companies there's really no incentive for them to make it easier for their user base to move somewhere else and take some memories with them, but lawmakers may have to make that happen. So not sure that's a priority for them right now, but who knows? Maybe that will change at some point. All right, final article. This is from Finance Yahoo. It's actually originally from Bloomberg, but it's featured on Yahoo. And the article is, foreigners are buying U.S. stocks at record pace despite trade war. Now, this article hit the radar with me only because I know we don't really get into politics in this call on this podcast, but it was interesting to see why are so many foreigners investing in U.S. stocks right now, because it is true the tariffs you would think would be staving off a lot of that global investor activity in U.S. stocks, but there appears to be maybe an AI aspect to it. So, Michael, what did you think about what this article had to say?
Yeah, I mean, we start looking at, let's just take the U.S. stock market. The top 20 companies are all AI companies, are very heavy tech driven. And I think that's where you're seeing the growth, even across the S&P 500, which is not, if you take those S&P 500, the 500 companies that make that up, not all of them are tech, and not all of them are doing as well as the tech companies are in terms of their growth. And that part of it, you tend, S&P 500 averages out. But when you talk about folks who are looking for returns and for high growth opportunities, they're seeing, it's obvious, they're seeing in the news, NVIDIA is coming out with all these massive chips that every one of these other AI companies is leveraging. Well, as any investor, no matter where you're sitting, you're going to want a piece of that action. I feel strongly about that. I want to get in on that. How can I do that? Well, I'm going to invest in NVIDIA stock. And I think that's the same thing across the board. When you start looking at the stocks that are doing really well, that are in this high tech world, that is what is attracting investors from everywhere, because they're all looking for ways to be able to allow their money to grow and to work for them in ways that perhaps their local stock markets can't. So non-US stock markets may not be able to do that as well, or where they're just seeing, listen, I have my investments here and wherever I'm at, if I'm in the UK, in China, in Russia, in Japan, I have my local investments that I'm working on, and I feel comfortable with those. But I also want exposure to US markets for all of these high tech firms. So I choose to also invest in the US market that way. So I really think it's hard not to look past the fact that these are really high flying companies, and they're driving the world in terms of the technologies that they're building. So to me, it's not a surprise that that there are global investors who really want to line up for this.
Yeah. The article mentions that demand has been so intense that stocks now make up nearly 32% of foreigners' allocations to U.S. assets, which breaks a record that's been in place since 1968. So clearly something is different. Something is really continuing to draw their money into the U.S. stocks, and yeah, with the tech sector achieving 26 all-time highs, new all-time highs this year, it's certainly got a lot of their attention. So it's not too surprising. Well, that's all the time we have for the Pulse Check. Thank you for joining us. Remember, every week we publish another episode featuring a guest. So be sure and check that out. Otherwise, we will see you back on the Pulse Check next week. Bye for now.